We're on the brink of war with China for various reasons. I hope we make it to 2050. The demographics is as I describe it. And by the way, them losing doesn't make us winning. So I think you're in the part of the cycle where you've had the tightening and the dominoes are beginning to fall. And I think that that's going to produce more problems. The most important thing is to have this basic, well-diversified portfolios. There are three big things that I observed happening that didn't happen in our lifetimes, but happened during the 1930 to 45 period. And they are the creation of enormous amounts of debt and the printing of money to pay for those debts, and it having its economic effects on inflation and growth. The second is internal conflicts over the largest wealth gaps we had since then, values gaps, and the rise of populism of the right and the left. Those conflicts, again, largest since that 1930 to 45 period, with the rise of China as a great power, challenging the United States and with Russia. So the great power conflict, that also is the most that's happened since the Great Depression. Take about 75 years, give or take about 50. And the rise and decline of the British Empire, the rise and decline of the debt. And that dynamic I shared in the book, and I also shared it in an animated video, which is called The Changing World Order. My goal here is to show people how the machine works, the cause-effect relationship. You're holding a debt instrument, and when we have a problem with the debt instrument, a few problems with it, holding the debt instruments. Those problems are that, first of all, as a result of what the United States was in the world, the largest trading country, the dominant empire, and so on, there's been a huge accumulation of dollar-denominated debt in dollars, therefore. And there's also been a lot of deficits that had to be funded, which happens by selling dollar-denominated debt, which a lot of foreigners and banks and others bought. And so they have a lot of dollar-denominated debt. Now, if you're a creditor, meaning an owner of dollar-denominated debt, you need to have an interest rate that is high enough to more than compensate you for inflation. And so the production now of a lot more debt and them having a lot of debt, so that there's a supply-demand issue. That supply-demand issue, by the way, also exists in European currencies. Okay, they have too much debt and they're financed the same way, and Japanese currencies. And so what you're seeing is the movement, all that weight of money and debt is causing prices to go up, inflation. 1930s, you saw 4 democracies become dictatorships, choose to become dictatorships. They had parliaments that chose to become dictatorships. Germany, Italy, Spain, and Japan chose that because in order to fight, that's what you need, and that your anthropologist friends are right on that. So there are 4 quadrants that I think of: rising growth, rising inflation, and falling inflation. And I want to have a portfolio that will be 25% of my risk in each one of those so that I don't have any bias. And so I pick the assets that are going to do well in each of those 4 quadrants, and I hold them in a balanced way. And I tested that, going back actually to 1900 and so on, and you'll actually increase your buying power. That's the kind of thing that I think in the beginning. Then you have to also make provision for taxes to some extent. So I say, whatever that amount of money is, I want twice as that. So in case it goes in half, and I want to build a portfolio that looks like that for, X number of years that I have that, and that's the safe savings. And then when I go beyond that, then I'll take more risk. But I think that being safe, particularly in this kind of an environment, is important. And I would take a perspective of how to do that that's like the one I'm just describing. Learn how, say a few things. First, know your nature. Everyone has a different nature, a pull, what's their pull toward. I created a personality profile test called Principles U. I put it online for free, and it tells you a lot about, what your nature is. And it also shows if you take the test and you put somebody else's in, they take the test, it'll tell you about your relationship. So you want to know what your nature is, what your pull is going for. And then you go through your journey of learning experiences that has its ups and downs, and you learn. You have your painful experiences, but I have a principle: pain plus reflection equals progress. You learn, you get that. Well, it's a real burden, and also depending on where it is, it's a real burden, because the young have to take care of the old. So let's say, for example, in China, with the one-child policy, a married couple has 4 old adults that they have to take care of. There's not an adequate social program, and that takes time and money, and it makes it a great burden, makes productivity a problem. I think the main thing with China right now is, we're on the brink of war with China for various reasons. I hope we make it to 2050. The demographics is as I describe it. And by the way, them losing doesn't make us winning. Look at that. We hope everyone gets better. And the world economy, we hope everybody has a better way. Everybody loses in wars. That's their set of circumstances, and it'll be what it'll be. I think the most important thing is, how do we deal with our circumstances? How do we become strong and healthy, financially healthy, productivity healthy, and so on? The big issue is that a lot of debt was created. A lot of it is government debt, but it is also corporate, to a lesser extent household debt. If you look at the Silicon Valley Bank issue, it's not so much their issue as much as a worldwide issue. And what happened is that, what's a bank? A bank takes in deposits, and then it takes that money and it invests it in things. And so they bought a lot of government bonds that had a higher yield than they were paying out in the deposits. There's a tightness of monetary policy, and those yields went up and the bonds went down in value. And then the amount they have to pay out went up in value. And so they went broke. That is happening all over. That happens not only through banks as a whole did a lot of that, but insurance companies and so on, all around the world. Same sort of thing happened in Europe. Same sort of thing happened with Japanese companies even buying US dollar bonds. The most important thing, as I say, is to have this basic, well-diversified, a small percentage of your money, even in asset like gold, and diversification for countries, to create a diversified portfolio is important. Cryptocurrency or Bitcoin doesn't move in a reliable way related to almost anything. It, moves up and down because of this move and that move. And unlike gold, let's say, I would prefer gold and I would prefer crypto for various reasons. Crypto, it's very easy to track the owners and transactions in it. It's not liked by the government. It doesn't move in a way that's consistent with, kind of any of the environments. And it's a small asset class. We talk a lot more about it, but its size is about 30% of the size of Microsoft, and Microsoft is one stock among many stocks. I don't understand why people are more inclined to go to Bitcoin than gold. If you look internationally, gold is, for central banks, the third highest reserve asset. First is dollars, then euros, then gold, then Japanese yen. Right. I'll tell you, this idea of success being measured in the amount of money and status you have is really screwed up. Like, if you think about money, and this is shown in measures of happiness, past a basic amount of money so that you don't have the misery, there is no correlation between the level of money you have and the level of happiness you have. Lots of studies show that. And the highest correlation is, do you have a community? And that's the highest source of happiness and also longevity. And then you think, like, what is money for? It has no intrinsic value. It only has a value of what it buys. And so it has a limited marginal ability. You benefit. You add more and more to it. And, like, what are you going to do? Okay, so you're going to get a bigger house or a bigger car. And what does that really mean incrementally relative to spending time with friends and family and all of those things? Most of the good things in life are not expensive, right? Friends, family, nature, sex, anything. It's not going to get better with more money, right? Materially better. And so it seems to me that it then can become an obsession, and that's not healthy. So I think it's, by and large, you handle it well, and it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay.